Hello. Cindy, good morning. Are you usually here on Sundays? I mean, Saturdays? So awesome to have you. All right, who else is here? Steve is out there probably. He'll email me later and say, "Yep, I was there," because he's such a yogi, Steve. Um, all right, so let me see. Stevie's here. Good. Yeah, Cindy, that's what I thought. All right, awesome. Anybody want to share anything with me? Let me know what's going on. Questions, concerns, something you want to learn about. Um, great. Good that you're here. I'm happy you're here. So today I wanted to focus on hips, which we all have them. And often it is something that people request. You know, and it's really interesting when I was younger and I practiced yoga in my 30s and I would do the crazy yoga. It's probably the number one request I heard. I want to open my hips. I mean, not that when I was teaching, in classes I was taking, especially the stronger classes and those of us when we were younger. So really interesting. Yet as we get older, we know how important hip health is and our hips. So, all right, let me plug something in. I got to plug my computer in. Just notice that it's not. All right. Don't want my computer dying. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Nancy, good morning. All right. Perfect. Today the focus is on the hips. And what that means is we're going to stretch our body around the hip joint area and maybe learn some things about movement of the hips or what is where the hips are or what affects them. Because in my mind, when I think about teaching a class that is focusing physically on our hips, I'm actually thinking of all the muscles that either move the hips, stabilize the hips, or the muscles that are in that area of the hips. And so then we have muscles of the pelvis, of the legs, muscles that will have an effect on the low back. We also have that great deep psoas muscle, that emotional muscle, the muscle of fear, the muscle of protection, the muscle that puts you into a fetal position to protect yourself, a deep, deep ancestral protective mechanism that exists in all of us. And depending on where you came from, you're here today, 2022. So you're here today, which means that your people survived every single thing that was happening, being attacked by this or whatever, and going into that place of protection and knowing how to find safety, right? So that's crazy, but that's in all of us. And so when we think of the hips, we want to think of all of the aspects. And unfortunately, in today's society, we sit too much and we close off our hip joint and we contract the muscles of the hip and we make the range of motion smaller in the hip joint, which is actually not good if you slip, trip, or fall, because then the forces that happen during that cannot be received. Your hips stop dancing. And we need them to be able to dance. So dancing hips, dancing ankles, dancing joints is what's going to help with fracture prevention. So lots of good stuff today for the hips. We're going to bring ourselves right here to our pelvis, right away to our hips. And because of that, I'd like you to pay attention to what that may bring up for you. Because this is an emotional area of the body on many deep layers, it can also bring up some stuff. So we're going to come to today's practice with the awareness and intention that physically we're going to create an opening and more space in our hip area. And then we're going to be curious about, does that open any doors? Does that actually poke any monsters of pain, of trauma, of stored stuff, physical, mental, emotional? So I know that's deep. And the hip is actually a really deep set joint. And so we have to be aware of this though. And in my experience teaching, there have been times when we do certain things, chest opening and hips, that can actually bring up some feelings. So feel your feels, notice what you notice today, be very in tune with your body, and let's prepare for the practice. Yoga is a mind-body practice. It's not just physical, we're not just exercising. So we're gonna come to a place of awareness and set ourselves up before we begin the physical practice, so we could be in the place of total present moment awareness to notice what comes up during the practice so we can manage whatever it is that arises. So for today's practice, the props I would like you to gather are a block and a strap, a blanket, and I'm going to use a bolster because I'd like to begin today's practice in a supported relaxation posture that will allow the fluids to flow up to the brain and to the heart, relaxing our heart and our brain, which the place we love, the place we feel, our place of intelligence. And so if you don't have a bolster, which a lot of you may not, then get some pillows, or you can actually use the block underneath your pelvis. So go ahead and gather what you need to gather. And then to come down to this posture, because I'm going to begin in an inversion, and if you're going to begin in an inversion, the higher you lift your pelvis, there's going to be more downward pressure towards the neck and the head, and we don't want to put too much pressure down there. So the fold of the blanket should be pretty small, either double, or for some of you, if you know that you have pretty good posture and you don't have a lot of issues with rounding in your upper spine, then you might even be able to come to a single fold, having the bolster nearby so that I could slip this underneath my pelvis or a block or whatever you're going to use, and then bring yourself down onto the ground. Come down onto the ground. And if you are going to use a bolster, you're going to lift your pelvis up so that you could place it underneath your pelvis. It could be a block, it could be a towel. And a really nice thing to do that'll help to start stretching the hips is to lift your pelvis up, come onto your tippy toes, tilt your pelvis backwards. So it's the top edge of the pelvis that touches the block or the bolster, the blanket first. And then you let your sacrum down to your tailbone rest. This is going to start to stretch the pelvis and the muscles that are attached to and move and stabilize the pelvis. And the hips are embedded in your pelvis. Once you come into this position, get yourself so that you have a little support under the head. You have a good amount of support underneath your pelvis. And then bring your arms alongside your body. Lift your heart up, slide your shoulder blades towards your chest. Let your shoulder blades be in the upper back so that your chest doesn't collapse. If you did have unmanaged high blood pressure, that would be someone who should not raise their pelvis. But if you have any blood pressure issues, as long as they're managed with medications, this is a safe posture to do. Let your arms go out to the side. Close your eyes and begin to let the magic of this position begin in your body. Close your mouth, your nose. Lift your heart up. Closing the mouth, begin to breathe down to your belly. Feel your belly moving. Begin to breathe down towards your pelvic floor. So breathe all the way down to where your legs attach to your body. Breathe all the way down to your hips. Breathe in and down to your tailbone and your sacrum. Breathing in, back, and down. And breathing to the back of your hips. Breathe in and down to the lower left side. The left front hip, the left side hip, the left back hip. All the way down to where your leg attaches to your body on the left side. Let your mind follow the breath in and down to the left lower side of your body. Bringing your awareness now to the right side, the right front hip, side hip, and back hip. Follow the breath in the nostrils down to the right side of your body. Feel the breath coming in. Feel it stretching. Feel it directed to the right lower side of your body, and feel the movement of the breath in your body. Visualize it and feel it.
the front, the sides, and the back of the right hip. See it, feel it, breathe to it. Bring the breath back to both hips, the front of the hips, the side of the hips, the back of the hips, all the way down to the tailbone to where your legs attach to your body. See it, feel it, and visualize your hips, breathing to your hips. Mouth is closed, breathe down to your hips. Take 3 more breaths to your hips. Stay with the breath. Breathe to your hips, bringing oxygen, energy. Now feel your pelvis. Feel the heaviness of your pelvis. Let your pelvis be heavy. Let it go. Feel the heaviness of your pelvis, whatever is supporting it. A blanket, a bolster, a pillow, the ground, wherever it is. Feel the heaviness, the largest bony structure in your body. Let it go. Let it be heavy. Each exhale, release more holding, more muscular tension in the pelvic area. Let it go soft. Visualize clouds or anything that brings a feeling of weightlessness to you. Floating in a pool, in a beautiful lake, in the ocean. Let's do a little to bring more fluids to your pelvis, to your hips. Walk the feet closer to your body, and then bring one knee at a time up so that your knees either hover right above the pelvis, or if the low back is unhappy with that, slide the knees a little closer to your belly button. Noticing how this feels, let your legs be separated about body distance. If you'd like to add on, you could unbend one knee and then the other. The eyes are closed. Feel and notice what you notice. Knees are either above the hips, above the center of the belly area, or above the belly button. See what feels better for you. Letting the fluids of the lower extremities pool down, waterfall down to your hips. Breathing down to your hips. Let your arms go a little higher if your shoulders will let you. Bring the upper arm bones straight off your shoulders if that's appropriate. Hands are out to the side, resting palms are up towards the sky. Then push your heart up towards the sky to support your upper chest area. You could let your feet be here, or if you'd like to add a little movement, a little pumping action to the ankle area. Inhale and point your toes up towards the sky. Exhale and direct the center of your heels straight up towards the sky, toes towards your hips. Inhale, toes are up towards the sky. Exhale, draw the toes towards your hips. Inhale and exhale. Circles in one direction, slowly. Let your legs be a little wider. Move them to a position so the low back is happy. The other direction. And then bending your knees and unbending, bending and unbending, bending, unbending. One more. Slowly bring one foot down and then the other. Let everything settle, let everything relax. Next couple of exhales, bring in relaxation to your muscles. If you'd like to explore stretching the front of your hips, taking one leg long, noticing how that feels for the low back, noticing how that feels for the front hip. Maybe that's appropriate for you, or you could explore taking the other leg straight. You take the arms overhead. Any variation, any place in this, find something that's appropriate for your body. If two legs straight is too intense, do just one at a time. Pointing the toes towards the ground, reaching the fingers overhead. Feel that stretch in the front of the hip joint, low belly area. Push your heart up towards the sky. That'll deepen the stretch, adding a little spinal extension, a gentle back bend to the middle spine. Breathe down to your belly, breathe down to your hips. Breathe down to your tailbone. And then go ahead, bend your knees. Bring your arms down alongside your body. Bring your arms to release whatever is underneath your pelvis. Walking your feet closer, bringing your feet up closer to your body so you can get more lift to bring whatever's underneath you out. And then place your body down on the ground, close your eyes. Let your feet be a little wider than your body. Let your knees fall in towards each other. And allow that relaxation to come into the lower spine. Feel your tailbone, sacrum on the ground. Low back is not touching, it's relaxing. And explore straightening your legs here one at a time to make sure it's okay for your body. Let your feet be as wide as the mat, and then allow the toes to flop to the side. This is a nice relaxing position for the hip joint. Take your hands onto your lower belly. Slide them down to the top of the hip bones, the pelvic bones. Press your hands into your hips and press your hips down, your hip bones, down towards the ground to help stabilize your pelvis with your legs in the straight position. So the feet in this relaxed position is relaxed in the hip joint. The hips have opened a little, started that opening. Inhale when your feet are like this, the pinky toes are towards the ground, and then begin to bring your toes towards the center as you exhale. Inhale to let your toes, pinky toe edges go towards the ground. Exhale to bring the big toes towards each other and then push them towards the ground. Hands are on the hip bones. Let your fingers be pointing straight down to where your legs attach to your body. See if you could feel this motion. You exhale to bring the toes towards each other and towards the ground. You inhale to open. This is a true hip joint movement, internal and external hip joint rotation. Keep the legs straight. Inhale to open. Exhale to bring the toes towards each other. You inhale to open, you exhale to bring your toes together. Bringing yourself back to center. Let your body relax. And then bend your knees. Let your eyes open. So let's take the blanket and fold the blanket. We're going to do some things for our hips. So the blanket being folded underneath your head will be very helpful. For those with tighter bodies, tighter hips, I recommend that you fold the blanket more. So either a double fold or again in a double fold, especially if you do have tightness, or if you have issues with a posture and alignment in your spine, tightness in the upper back and neck area. We're going to focus on this part of our body. And when there's tightness in the hip area, it translates to the upper body because the body is trying to hold and support your head on top of itself. And if you do have tightness in this area, the head may come forward, or the head being forward may contribute to tightness here. So if you support your head, we're going to get a little more access into the hip area. So know your body, know what's appropriate for you. Then clear your space so that you can move your body. You're going to need your block and your strap handy, so make sure that you have those nearby. Bring yourself onto your back. I think learning body awareness is probably one of the most valuable things you'll learn to keep your body safe and for you to safely and strongly stimulate bones to get stronger, muscles to get stronger, and the pathways of communication for your nervous system for balance and fall prevention, posture alignment, and all the things that are really important for us to maintain as we age. So let's begin to set our upper body in a nice structurally aligned position. Take your arms alongside your body, lift your rib cage away from the ground, slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Feel that happening so the shoulder blades go right where they should, in their home, behind your body, and then let your body weight rest on them. Let's soften and loosen up some tightness that may exist in the shoulders. Take your hands down alongside your body. Notice here with the hands down alongside your body, are you feeling anything in your shoulders? Notice if you're feeling anything in your low back. To protect the low back here, Walk your feet a little closer, a little wider, and let your knees go in towards each other. That'll help to create more space in the low back. And then because we are going to be working with the shoulders, the low back will take some of the tension if there is tension here. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to the tension. Hands are down alongside your body. Thumbs are up towards the sky. Exhale. Inhale, bring the right hand up and over. Try to let the thumb touch the ground behind you without bending the elbow. It doesn't matter if you don't get that far. That's our journey. That's the destination, but we're all on a journey. So whatever your journey is, it is. Left hand raises with the inhale and lowers with the exhale. So we're all on a journey to a destination, and we all have an individual journey. Inhale to rise, exhale to lower. Inhale to rise, exhale to lower. Let's involve our brain. Inhale, right hand rises. Exhale, switch. Left hand comes up, right hand goes down. Inhale, switch. Exhale, switch. Inhale. And exhale. Pay attention to what you notice in the back of your shoulder blades and in your shoulders. And then bring both hands down. We're going to switch the breath here. Exhale. Inhale, left hand comes up. Exhale, switch. Inhale, switch. Close your eyes. Try to keep your arms straight. Move in whatever the full range of motion is for you and your shoulder. See if you could feel this in the belly on either side. Maybe the psoas is getting involved here. The spine is noticing what's happening above in the shoulders. Let's see if you could feel that communication in your body. I feel it in mine, which is why I'm sharing that. One more. Bring both hands down. Bring your awareness to your head and neck. Take an inhale. As you exhale, let your head go to the right. Slowly let it roll on your blanket. Eyes are closed. Go as far as you can till you feel a stretch. Inhale back up to center. Exhale to the other side. Inhale back up. Feel the rainbow shape that the head makes on the ground. It's like a rainbow. Last time to each side. Bring yourself back to center. Walk your feet closer to your body and then draw one knee at a time up. Feel the low back press into the ground. Close your eyes so you could feel what's happening in your body. Rock side to side. Feel the top edge of your pelvis rocking on the ground. See if you could feel your low back flatten against the ground. This is the opposite curve for the low back. It's usually in an extension position. We're putting it in a flexion position, tilting the pelvis backwards. And bring yourself back to neutral. Take your hands one at a time on top of the kneecaps so that your hand actually holds your leg. Your fingers are wrapped around your leg. Let your legs move away from you while your hands hold them. Take an inhale and an exhale. Inhale. On this exhale, draw the knees straight towards your belly. Close your eyes. Feel your low back press into the ground. Lower back ribs press into the ground. Top of the pelvis press into the ground. Legs press into the belly. Inhale to go back to neutral. Exhale. Draw the knees into your belly. Feel the top thighs pressing into your belly, pressing into your spine, flattening low back into the ground, flattening the top of the pelvis into the ground. Inhale. You're controlling the femur bone, which is deeply set in the hip joint. So you're getting the hips to tilt the pelvis. Let it be your hands that do the work. Try to let your body be pretty passive. Let it be your hands that are doing the work for you. You're tilting your pelvis, adding flexion to your spine. We need more of this tilting, this posterior tilting action in our body to relieve tension in the hips and in the low back. So we want to imprint this into our body. One more. Let your knees stay in when they're in. Take your right ankle over your left. Reach your hands around the sides of your body. Grab hold of the feet. If you need to lift your head off the floor so that you can get a little access to your feet, let your thumbs go in your arches. Your hands are on top of your feet. Draw your feet away from each other, and then the right leg is on top. Pull the legs towards your body, pressing the left side of the spine into the ground a little more as that right leg presses into the left lower leg bones. Tilt to the side a little bit, to the left side, and rock side to side. Feeling that left top edge of the pelvis, little massage as you roll side to side. Bring yourself back to center. Let's switch. So let the left leg come on top of the right. Let the lower leg bones touch. Reach your hands around the side, grabbing onto the feet, letting the thumbs touch the arches. The fingers are on the top, and then pull the legs towards your body so that your legs press into each other and it presses the low back towards the ground. You may feel a stretch in the glutes. You may feel a stretch in the back of the hip joint. Rocking towards the right lower back, rock side to side a little bit so that the right top pelvic bone presses into the ground. And then bring yourself back to center. Unbend your legs. Let your legs go up in the air. Let the legs sink deep into the hip joints. This can be really nice and relaxing for the low back for most. Closer the knees are to the heart is going to determine, you may need to be closer to the heart. When you are above your pelvis, it requires a little more core contraction. So if you want to be in a relaxed position, a little slight bend in the knees and the knees closer to the lower ribs. Good for heart health to have your legs elevated like this, and also good for varicose veins in the calves. And it's helping the fluids come back up. So all of the channels or the gates that actually stop the blood from flowing back down, that's what varicose veins are, is when those barriers, they collapse and the blood pools in a certain area. So let's give our valves or our whatever it is, they're like locks in a lake. You know, when you have one ocean to the other connected by a lock, you need to have locks so that the fluids don't flow back. Well, to stop that fluid flow back, we need to protect those parts of us. And then let's go ahead and bring your legs back down on the ground. Feel that coming into your body. Feel the fluid flowing back to the feet. And then bring your hands alongside your body. Let's take the legs wide off the mat so that we can start to lubricate the hips a little more here. So we're going to do a little windshield wiper action. Let's do a gentle side to side with the soles of the feet on the ground at first. So you're going to start to feel the stretching of the muscles that move the hip joint. The inner thighs start to stretch. Your psoas is stretching. Your hip flexors are stretching. Some of these lateral and posterior muscles. Feel those. Close your eyes. You may even feel this all the way up towards the low ribs or towards the belly button because the psoas is attached to your low back. Close your eyes and feel what's happening here in your body. Then you can start letting yourself go a little farther. Let your legs go a little farther. Exhale, zipper up your belly, zipper up your core to come back up to center. Inhale out to the side, exhale back to center. Close your eyes. Feel your body weight moving through the center of your buttocks from one side through the middle and to the other. Contract your core to bring your legs back up to center. Be in your hips, see what you feel, noticing front, sides, and maybe even the back of the hips stretch. Long waist. Let your legs move to the side and away from you. So pushing the legs away and letting them go to the side. Next time you come towards the right, push the left leg away from you. Let the legs go over to the right. Stay here. Turn your head to the left. Reach your left hand long away from you. Flex your wrist so you reach out of the heel of your hand. Stretch your left side. Feel the hip stretch. Push the hip up towards the sky. Stretching the front of your hip. Take one more breath. Bring yourself back through center. As your legs move to the left, push the right leg away from you and moving it to the left. When you arrive, let the head go to the right, lift the hand off, reach, and press that right hip up towards the sky. Breathe to your right hip joint. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself back to center. Walk your feet back to center. So that was stretching the front of the hips and the side of the hips. We're going to go a little deeper and stretch the muscles that mobilize and stabilize the side of the hips. Let's take the right leg over the left leg. Right leg is over the left leg, so there's no space whatsoever. The back of the right thigh is right where the top of the left thigh. And then take your hands, clasp your hands behind your head. Let your thumbs go down your neck. Let your head rest in your hands. Elbows are out to the side. Exhale. And then inhale slowly, pushing the legs away from you and moving them towards the left side on the inhale. Exhale, contract your core to bring them back up to center. You may not move a lot. That's okay. Push your right thigh away from you as you inhale to let your legs go over to the left. Exhale back to center. One more. Inhale, legs are over to the left. Stay here. Now your left foot is on the floor. Explore moving your left foot more to the left. And see if that deepens that side hip stretch of the right leg. Push the right leg away from you with the muscles in your body and your mind. Keep your right waist nice and long. Push your left buttock to the ground a lot. That'll help to protect the low back. Push the belly button back towards the spine. Feeling the stretch, feeling what's appropriate. If you have a posterior hip replacement, your incision is on the back of your, or the side of your body. Be careful here and feel what feels appropriate to you. Finishing your last breath. Bring yourself back up to center. All the way back. Close your eyes, rest here, and bring your awareness down to your right hip versus your left hip. And see if you notice any difference with right hip and left hip. And your low back. Left low back here is the one that would receive a lot of that tension. So just notice what you notice here. Stay there. I need to put my dog in the house. So we're going to go to the other side. Take your left leg over the right leg and make sure the back of the left thigh touches the top of the right leg. You'll feel the pressure at the sacrum, which is the base of the spine and the pelvis. Elbows are out to the side, thumbs are down, and you're cradling your head. Let's take an exhale. And on the inhale, let your legs slowly go towards the right. Keep your left waist long. Press the top left thigh away from you. So you're lengthening and stretching to the side. Exhale, contract your core to come back to center. Inhale slowly. Let your legs go towards the right. Exhale back to center. One more. You inhale to the right. Feel the weight going onto your right buttock. Push the left leg away. Stay here. And then you can walk the right foot over to the right. This gives you a little bit more pulling action on that hip, or a little bit more lengthening action. Press your right low back and your right tushy towards the ground to help protect the right side of the low back. Breathing down to your belly, breathing down to your hip. Again, if you have a posterior hip replacement, paying attention. Take one more breath. Exhale to contract your core, push your belly button to your spine, and draw your legs back up to center. Take your legs off, close your eyes, go to your left hip, notice what you notice here. left low back. And then go ahead. Take your hands out to the side like a scarecrow. Let's take the right knee in, take the right leg across the left leg, letting the lower leg bone press into the top of the right leg. Sorry, the top of the left leg. So the right lower leg is touching the left top leg. Don't let it be the foot, let it be the lower right leg bones, because that'll give you a little bit more access in the hip joint to stretch the hip. Take an exhale here. You're going to inhale, push the right hip away from you and let the legs move towards the left. Feel yourself rocking towards the left buttock, pushing that right leg away from you, stretching the right hip, the right waist. Exhale, contract your core to come up to center. Inhale to the left. Exhale back to center. Last one, you're going to inhale, push the right leg away from you. Let your legs go to the left, and you're going to stay here. Push the left lower back towards the ground, the left buttock towards the ground. If you'd like to move the left foot over to the left a little, you can. Or if you'd like to try to let that right foot come over to the ground, towards the ground or on the ground. Anything works. Pay attention to how this feels in the back. This is rotation. This is going to stretch front of the hip, side of the hip, and side of your body. So make sure it feels appropriate for your body to be here. The goal is not to touch the floor. The goal is to move towards the floor in the appropriate way for your body. Pushing that right knee away from you. Don't let it collapse towards your chest. We want to stretch the hip. Front of the hip, side of the hip. Breathe down to your right side, your right hip. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself back up to center. This is a figure 4. Walk your left foot closer to your body. For some of you, being here may be good enough. Or you could reach your hand through your legs, bring your left leg up and clasp behind your left leg, holding on to the left upper leg bone, bringing that stretch deep into the hip joint at the back and the side. If you're able to unbend the left leg, bring the left leg up. Any variation of this, feel what's appropriate for you. Your left leg pushes into the right leg to bring the right leg closer to your chest, and you push the right knee away from you to add that external rotation to stretch your right hip. Deep hip stretch. Feel what's appropriate for you. Take one more breath. Bending your leg, bring your foot down onto the ground. Let your leg rest. So when we stretch our hip, we're stretching one side, and that can have an effect on the sacrum, where it's embedded in the pelvis, the sacroiliac joint. Most of the connective tissue in the pelvis is ligaments. So pay attention to how you feel here. You don't want to pull too hard. Muscles are on the legs and the low back, and then attaching the hip or the leg into the socket. And then the pelvic area is mostly ligaments. Let's go to the other side. Take your left ankle and lower leg on top of the right thigh. Left knee goes to the left. Making a figure 4. Your hands are out to the side. This helps to stabilize the upper trunk. We're doing a rotation here. So it's going to stretch the side of the hip, the front of the hip, back of the hip, but be careful here with the low back and the SI joint in the pelvis. So be closing your eyes, go to your lower back area to feel what's appropriate. Exhale. As you inhale, push the left leg away from you and let your legs slowly go over towards the right, whatever range of motion feels appropriate for your hip, your low back, and your pelvis. Exhale back to center. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale, left leg is moving away from you. Push your belly button to your spine to protect your low back. Come over, either hover or come all the way onto the ground if that's appropriate for you. Or you even could put your block there. Let your foot rest on your block if that's appropriate for you. Any height. Pushing the left leg away, pushing your belly button towards your spine, pushing the left knee away. Feel an appropriate stretch in the left side somewhere. Breathe down to your left side. Take one more breath. Bringing yourself back up. We're going to go into the figure four. Walk your right foot closer to your body. For some of you, this may be an appropriate deep enough stretch, especially if you have issues in your hips. Otherwise, if you'd like to go a little deeper, reach your hand through the legs, right hand on the outside, draw your legs up and clasp behind the right leg. The right knee can be bent, or you could lift the right knee up towards the sky. Pushing the left knee away will deepen the stretch in the hip if that's appropriate for your body. Notice if you feel tension in your neck, your head, your chest. Everything is connected. Take one more breath. And then bend your leg. Bring your foot down. Bring your feet all the way down. We're going to stretch where the legs attach to the body. So let's get your strap. Draw both legs in. So the back of the hips, we're going to stretch the back of the hips here. Bring both legs in. So you could do this with two legs, and if you're really tight and it does anything uncomfortable to your body, you could switch and do one at a time. I'll teach this with two together. Soles of the feet are pointing up towards the sky. Arches are maybe touching or not, depending on how deep your arches are. Push your pinky toe edges into the strap. Then you're going to draw the legs back towards the wall behind you. Your knees could be bent. You may feel this a little bit more in the belly or the center of the back thighs. You may experience it all the way down where your legs attach to your body, back of the hips, or in the back of the hip area. Then bring yourself out. See if you could have straight legs and try to move back with straight legs. You probably won't move back as far. Push your sacrum into the ground. Push your belly button towards your spine to protect. Take one more breath. And then bend your knees. Bring your feet out. Take your strap and make a loop if you have the ability to make a loop. Otherwise, you're going to tie the strap or whatever you have around your legs. So make it be about hip distance. Take your feet, put your feet through the strap, put the strap on the outside. So we're going to add a little strength here to our hips on the side, and we're going to stretch the front of our hips. We're going to come into the bridge posture, which is going to stretch the front of the hips, strengthen the side of the hips, strengthen the back of the hips where the legs attach to the body. So you're going to move your blanket away from you. You're going to bring your arms onto the ground, slide your shoulder blades closer to the spine, walk your feet closer. With the strap on here, you're going to get a little higher, and you're going to get that nice front hip stretch and get really nice side stretch, hip strengthening and back hip. Arms could be down alongside your body or elbows could be bent. It's up to you. Lengthen the back of your neck. Press your belly button to your spine. Flatten your low back and then peel your spine up and away from the floor. Push into the ground with your hands and your feet. Lift your pelvis away from the ground as high as you can. Pushing down on the strap and then push your knees away from you. Take 5 deep breaths here. At the end of that last breath, you're going to place your spine down on the ground 1 vertebra at a time. Bring your knees in, take your strap off to the side. Bring yourself onto your side. Cradle your head in your hand. Take your hand in the ground. You're going to push yourself away from the ground and come up. Grab your blanket. So let's do a little to strengthen our hips. Coming onto your knees, take your hands in the ground. We're going to come into the plank posture. This strengthens the front of the hips. Let's take one leg back. Push your leg back so you stretch your calf to make that a little easier so you can move your weight back. Do the same thing with the other leg. Spread your fingers. Look down. Try to get the pointer fingers to point straight ahead of you. And let your hands be underneath your shoulders. Press one foot into the ground, bring the other one up. Bring your feet body distance here, so not too wide. Bring your feet here. Push yourself back so that your heels are moving back. And then push one foot into the ground, lift the other one off if you can. And if you can't, visualize it. Push both in and visualize you're doing one at a time. Put that one down, take the other one off. And switch. 3-legged plank or 3-limbed plank. Bring your feet together, lift one off, and then the other. Bring yourself down, bring your knees down, and bring yourself up. Gather yourself, gather your breath. Let's get the block. We're going to deeply stretch the front of the hip joint, a lot of the muscles that mobilize that hip. So let's bring one leg forward. Bring the right leg forward, actually. So bring the right leg forward. We're going to stretch that left hip. Bring the right leg forward. Get your block. Bring your block forward in your left hand. Take your right hand onto your right hip. You're going to let your hip go back and forth a little, back and forth. Let your gaze be forward. Then you're going to come all the way forward here. Some of you may need to stay here with your hand on your right leg or both of the hands on the right leg. Or you could come with your hands on the block. Maybe you could put a hand on the ground, coming to the inside of the right leg. So take the right leg over to the right. You can either come all the way down with your hands on the ground if your body will let you, or onto a block, stretching the front of that left hip joint. You'll feel a pretty deep stretch there. And then roll on to the pinky toe edge of the right leg. Let the right knee move out to the side, stretching the inner thigh on that right side, which is the inner hip area.
Your hands could be on the ground. Let your spine be long. Do not collapse the front of your spine, especially if you have osteoporosis. Doing whatever is appropriate for you here. Push down into the ground. Let you're rolled onto your right pinky toe edge. Your right knee is to the side, and your body weight is forward, really deeply stretching your hips here. Take one more breath. And then bring your right knee back up. Bring your hand on top of your right leg. Put your block on a high distance and bring yourself up. Let's switch. This is called lizard posture. And then if you look at a lizard outside, you'll see why it was named this way. They do this little push-up thing on the ground. So bring your block forward. Take your hand onto your left thigh. We're going to bring a little bit of moisture, deep moisture into that right side. So let your hip come forward. Feel your way into what's appropriate. Now that you're adding weight, this is weight bearing, deep stretching. It deepens the stretch when you add weight. Bring yourself forward and stay here. You decide. Both hands need to be on the left, or one on the left, one here, or can you put your hands down on your block, or can you put your hands down on the ground? Walk your left foot to the left a little bit. Make sure your spine is nice and long. You're not rounding your spine here. So don't come down onto the ground or onto the lower block if your spine starts to round, especially if you have osteoporosis. Toes are forward. Push your hand into the block to push away to keep yourself safe. And then roll onto the pinky toe edge of the left foot. Left knee is out to the side, stretching that inner thigh on the left side. Take one more breath. Dismount gracefully. Getting out of the posture is just as important as safely getting into the posture. So bring the left foot back up. Take your left hand on top of left thigh. Push the left foot into the floor, the left hand into the left leg, and bring yourself up. Bring yourself forward on top of your hips here. Feel what you feel, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. So let's do one more thing for our hips. Take your blanket, fold your blanket in two. We're gonna come into a squat. Take one heel on the blanket and the other heel on the blanket. Have your legs be wide. Take your hands together. Bring your elbows on the inside of your knees. Push your knees apart. And then make sure you're not dumping in your hips. So elevate a little bit, come up a little bit, and then come up and go down. So you don't want to be hanging out. You want there to be a supportive action of your squat. Really push out with your hands, lots of inner thigh stretching there as well. Bring your awareness to your tailbone. Point your tailbone down towards the ground, belly button back towards the spine. Hands to the heart. Smile. And then go ahead and bring yourself out. Bring yourself either up here in a kneeling position or sit on your heels. Close your eyes. Go down to your hips. Notice what you notice. Your low back, your hips, pelvis. Make sure that what you did today was appropriate, that your hips are happy. And blink your eyes open. So let's go down onto the ground. Allow all the integration of what was practiced today seep into every cell in your body, and especially the pelvic area. So gather what you need. Having your legs, your body on a bolster. You can do an inverted bridge to end your practice, or legs straight on the ground, whatever you'd like. So get what you need.
Gently begin to deepen your breath. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. If you have something underneath your body, bring it out to the side. Draw your knees into your chest. Spread your knees, rock side to side. Bring yourself onto the side. Opening up your hand, you're going to push yourself up to a seated position.
Closing your eyes. Bring your hands to your heart, pressing the hands together, pressing the hands to the heart and the heart to the hands. Lengthen your spine and the back of your neck. Let's close the practice with a gentle hum, with the lips together. Take an exhale. Inhale. We bow in gratitude. Namaste. So pay attention to your hips after the practice. See if that was appropriate for you. Some of those weight bearing, that lizard posture can be very strong in the hips. So modifying according to what is appropriate for your body, for your hips. And I hope you have a very happy hippie day. All right, so let's hear how that was for you all. I always wonder if you're able to be in your body the way that I'm able to be in mine. I'm so tuned into my body that I feel all of that stuff, and I'm wondering if it's similar for you. Hi, Carolyn. Great. Yeah, so this one, Cindy, is stress, and I used to teach 2 classes on Saturday before the pandemic. And so it was a yoga basics or general yoga, and then the second one was restorative. So I just kind of created this one as stress. So I think of the word stress could mean anytime we need release or relief. And so the hips really take a lot of stress from sitting all day. Oh, good, Nancy. And then Nancy, I know Nancy, my hipster sister, because we both have hip replacements, that I know her issues. So I know it's really good for her. And I think today's practice could be good for you, Nancy. So hopefully that's the case. Good, Carolyn. They feel good. And Carolyn, this is what's going to keep us in pickleball tennis shape if we're doing that. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Steve or Lee, if you're out there. Have a great day and let me know how you feel. All right. Bye-bye.